And the question is that the motion be agreed to, and I call the member for Menzies.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, consider this fact. In 1972, there were 9,798 adoptions in Australia. Last year, there were 203 domestically and 114 inter-country. The space of just 4 decades, the number of adoptions has fallen from almost 10,000 to just a couple of hundred a year. This is a truly remarkable decline over a relatively short period of time. Now, it reflects in part changing social mores, but it also reflects long delays in the adoption process and also a decreasing emphasis on the welfare and the interests of the child in the balance which must be reached. There are some 15,000 children who have been in out-of-home care for 2 years or more, and they are the ones who are most affected by these changes. Because, Mr Deputy Speaker, a sense of security that a child experiences from his or her earliest days is critical to that child's psychological development. Beginning in the 1950s, the psychiatrist John Bowlby and the developmental psychologist Mary Ainsworth showed that one's early experiences of attachment are critical for all subsequent relationships. The interactions of children with parents establish the powerful dynamics of security and insecurity, with significant implications for subsequent adult relationships. The happiness of adults whose relationships in their early years were secure can differ greatly from those whose relationships were problematic and insecure. The latter are more likely to demonstrate either an avoidance of attachment in their later adult relationships or anxiety about their relationships with corresponding behaviours. Children who show signs of insecure attachment, such as avoidant or ambivalent behaviours, most often have parents who are unresponsive or inconsistent in their responses to the children, and that's a generalisation. Indeed, in a recent survey of 36 international studies, Abdel Khalik and Ronald Rona from the University of Connecticut concluded that children and adults everywhere, regardless of differences in race, culture and gender, tend to respond in exactly the same way when they have perceived themselves to be rejected by their caregivers and other attachment figures. And I quote, "In our half-century of international research, we've not found any other class of experience that has as strong and consistent effect on personality and personality development as does the experience of rejection, especially by parents in childhood." So the circumstances of a child's early life are critical, therefore, to his or her future relationships and happiness. If those years are marked by insecurity and uncertainty, loss of contact with a parent, shifting caregivers or inconsistent parenting, the child is likely to suffer the impact into his or her adult years. As Professor Scott Stanley observes, attachment is an unalterable, important human need and reality, and how attachment systems form in individuals really matters for everything else that really matters. Let me repeat that. How attachment systems form in individuals really matters for everything else that really matters. So this is of very profound significance for so many children in our society. But let me relate this, Mr Deputy Speaker, then, these general observations to adoption. As Associate Professor Michael Tarrant Sweeney of the University of Canterbury in New Zealand has observed, the single most important intervention that can protect the development and well-being of children who have an ongoing need for care is identifying them at the earliest possible stage and intervening decisively. The strongest predictor of the presence, severity and complexity of mental health difficulties is a child's age at entry into care, with entry at younger ages being much less protective. Once a child is in care, protective insecurity and instability negatively affects their development. So for children to have the best chance at normal development, they need to be bonded to adults who provide lifelong, unconditional love and stability. Adoption provides this above temporary foster care or permanent care orders that end at 18 years of age. That's why this issue is so important. I congratulate my honourable friend for bringing it before the Parliament. It's something which deserves renewed attention that I hope this debate gives it.
I thank the member for Menzies.